Hi there, how you doing? Welcome to a brand new program. It's a video cast entitled Men Are So Smart. It's a show for men, by men, that women are gonna love. And yeah, we know, we think like men. That's just the way we are. And you're gonna disagree. And we're gonna give you the chance to come on our show and talk about some of these disagreements so that men and women can get along much better. Now, my co-host for today is Corvette Ronnie. Ronnie and I go back,
Wow,
40 years, maybe a little bit longer than that.
long time.
Corvette Ronnie drives a beautiful 2003 red Corvette. He and I are both car guys. My name is Lou Gallagher. Some of you may know me from the K-Hits Garage on 101.5 K-Hits. It's on Saturday mornings from 6:30. But this allows me to kind of step outside the realm of just automotive and talk to you about some of the things that matter. As I said, some of the differences that we find between men and women. But before we get too much into some of those, we wanted to kind of give you a chance to meet us and find out a little something about us. I have a background in radio that goes back 32 years, I think, to the FM 102 Morning Zoo here in Sacramento. And Ronnie, you take it from here.
Well, I thought maybe people might want to know just a little bit about your history. So why don't you tell us,
okay.
you got an accent.
An accent, you say?
Yes. So why don't you tell us where you were born?
I was born... I'm thinking of that movie with Steve Martin, The Jerk. I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
They make bowling balls there, don't they?
They make, well, they're famous for tomatoes, I'll tell you that. It's the Garden State. I can remember as a kid growing up. I only lived in New Jersey till I was about 8 years old, so.
So when and why did you guys come out to California?
My dad was in the military. He was in the Navy, and after he got out of the Navy, he went to work for the U.S. government. He worked at Fort Dix in New Jersey and wanted to get out to California because his sister lived in California. And you know what's funny? When we talk about California, people that don't live here, they all think that we live on the beach.
Oh, well, California's an island, isn't it? It's surrounded by water.
And they say to you, yeah, what? They say to you, well, so do you surf every day? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Every day.
Right down at Folsom Dam.
I walk out my back door, there's the ocean right there.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
Not so much like that. But that's what we thought. So my parents, my dad was offered a job at McClellan Air Force Base, and we packed up the 59 Cadillac.
Ooh.
I know, as a
Those
car
are
guy.
the biggest wings ever on a Cadillac, by the way.
That sucker was like the Batmobile, man.
Oh, yeah.
I remember standing on that driver's seat and just holding that big old wheel with the chrome horn bar that it had. I swear, I felt like Batman every time.
That was like the greatest era for cars, I think.
I believe that 59 is the best Cadillac that was ever made.
You know what? I'd have to agree with you.
I don't know. I mean, you go to the 60s and you get that kind of sharp tail fin in the back that's smaller, reduced.
Not so much my thing.
Yeah. So we packed up this car, and what was at the time, and I knew no differently, but we drove 3,000 miles from New Brunswick, New Jersey, to Sacramento, California, in this Cadillac with air conditioning, with both of my parents smoking. And the windows rolled up. That's just the way that it was. Car seats? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, not so much.
No, it was wherever you could fit,
Right.
And you could fold the seat down and crawl into the trunk if you wanted to, for that matter. So, yeah, we all drove out, and I think that was 1967.
Okay.
And when I got here, I got to tell you, people made fun of me. Oh, my God, did they make fun of me?
Because you drove out here in a car?
Yes. And prior to enrolling in public school in Sacramento, I went to a Catholic school in New Jersey where you had to wear a uniform every day.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the things that was kind of required were penny loafers. Do you remember those?
Ooh, I do.
Yeah.
Wow, I would still make fun of you today.
I proudly say I don't own a pair any longer, but I did back then, and they did have pennies in them. And oh my gosh, it was trying to fit in was just really, really rough for me at first. And I did have that accent, a dog.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
wife always gets a kick out of it because I can go in and out of that New York East Coast accent.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I have some friends from the other side, and yeah, they do still. Even though they've kind of Californianized themselves quite a bit, it still sneaks out every once in a while.
There's some things that I say, and as you continue to listen to these video casts, there are some things, some words that I say that you will hear and you go, ah, yeah.
There it is.
All right, so moved to California in '67 and grew up in Sacramento over by Mission Avenue. Went to El Camino High School, which brings us to a point where this is where Corvette Ronnie and I became friends. Now, Ron is 2 years older than I am. So he was class of 75,
Right.
and I was class of 77. Now, we went to El Camino High School, and the biggest thing back then in the 70s was a band called the Senior Birdmen.
Right.
And the Senior Birdmen at El Camino High School, they would play at all of the rallies and get-togethers and such.
Except the year before, we were the Junior Birdmen.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So we were the Junior Birdmen, and then when we were seniors, we were the Senior Birdmen.
And you were new and improved.
We were.
And 97% more efficient. And we don't make these numbers
No,
up.
those
we
are real
do. We
numbers.
know, yeah, for sure. I mean, what kind of show would we be if we made up numbers? So, this show, we met because I decided that I wanted to put a band together to get girls, and I taught myself how to play guitar. This is before Ron and I guess I must have been about 13 or 14. And I was inspired by guys like John Denver,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and James Taylor. And I saw these guys playing guitar, along with a friend of my dad's, whose name was Colonel Burke. And Colonel Burke was from either North or South Carolina, and he was in the Air Force. He had been his whole lifetime. And on some Friday afternoons when I was a kid, he'd come over, they'd get off early, he'd come over to the house and my dad would buy a case of beer, they'd put it on ice, and Sergeant Burke would pick up the guitar and he would play for hours. And the thing that I remember the most was he could pick any song. He knew it. You'd say, can you play All of Me? And he'd bang it out.
Wow.
It was just amazing. And he was such a great guitar picker, and I thought, man, I wish I could do that. And so I was bound and determined to teach myself how to learn how to play guitar. And spent countless hours trying to learn chords and
You
songs.
still are, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, flash forward a little bit. Ron was in the Senior Birdmen, and he was graduating. If not, he had already graduated. And there was going to be a talent show
Right.
at El Camino. And so I put this band together to play in the talent show, and I asked Ron if he would join us. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I still can remember that song that we played. It was na 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 na.
Oh, yeah.
Elton John.
Crocodile Rock.
Crocodile Rock,
Yes,
that's what it was.
Yes, exactly.
What a classic for all time, my friends. Crocodile Rock,
Yeah.
yes. And probably one of the highest songs that you could try to sing.
Impossible.
It is. Well, we didn't win that.
No.
I think it was rigged.
But we came in a close 17th.
Yeah,
something
but we
like
were
that.
better than that 18th team.
Yes, yeah.
They weren't as good.
And I think some of the people up top, they were paying them off with like hall passes and stuff.
Yeah, you
So
can't.
it was rigged.
Can't compete.
No.
So we didn't win, but believe it or not, that was in 1976. We still play in this band together today.
Yeah.
And this is the surroundings that you see here. These are our rehearsal areas for our band. The name of this place, I shouldn't say, it's the Bat Cave, right?
No.
Not the Bat Cave?
Yeah.
This is the home of A&C Marine, by a guy who owns it by the name of Adam, and he's also the drummer in our band. We had to replace our original drummer. He wasn't new. He wasn't improved.
No.
Anyway, and so yeah, this is where we play.
So
And
you know what? I've got a question
Yeah.
though about. So before you guys approached me, did you have another guitar player, or was it just three guys in the band? Were you guys ZZ Top?
no, the interesting thing about this is when we first got together, it was me and a friend of ours named Dave. And Dave played in the El Camino High School marching band, and he played trombone. So when Dave and I used to get together to jam, it would be me on guitar, acoustic, by the way, a nice little $25 nylon string acoustic,
Oh, beautiful.
and Dave on trombone.
Oh, wow, what a sound.
Yeah, it was like no other.
Yeah.
It was like Tower of Power minus the tower and the power. So, yeah. So then Dave said, "Well, I'll learn how to play bass."
Right.
And so it was Dave and I, and he learned to play the bass. We recruited a guy by the name of Mick Mullaney to play drums for us, and he was an underclassman. And
Now, he's a year younger than you, even, or?
yeah, I think
Okay.
he's a year younger. He's
I think he's class of '78.
he's the same class as your wife.
No, my wife is younger yet. She's class of '80.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Okay, so, and then we recruited you to come in and play guitar, and that's when it all kind of came.
And you know, the funny thing is, Dave and I actually both were in all the bands: concert band, pep band, marching band. He wasn't in pep band because he played in sports, where I was a total band geek. He actually played
Basketball, yeah.
As well as you. You played basketball and baseball and football. You were the triple threat back then, right?
Yeah, and I could cook.
Wow, that's more than the trifecta. That's the quadfecta right there.
Quite a catch.
Yes, I would have to say so. Yeah.
All right, so let's see.
So why don't you tell us? Speaking of sports, so do you watch sports now? And you know, what sports do you watch, and who are your teams that you follow?
Well, I've always kept my East Coast roots, and I follow teams, the New York Yankees. I follow the Mets. Believe it or not, I'm not a big basketball fan. I'm not going to get on here and bandwagon and say that I'm a huge Kings fan. I don't know what happened, but I just kind of lost my love for basketball. I think it was. But in terms of football, again, New York teams.
Okay.
The Jets and the Giants are really my team.
And then I do happen to know that you're a ginormous NASCAR fan.
Yeah.
Now, where did that start from?
Well, I think it goes back to my days with my dad. My dad used to like to watch NASCAR in the Richard Petty days and back in the early Dale Earnhardt Sr. days. And I just love going fast.
Yeah, don't we all?
Back in high school, let's talk about that. Back in high school, what kind of car did you drive?
I had two. I had a little four-cylinder Vega. That was my first car. And then in auto shop, we put together a V8 Vega. And
Yeah, the Vega.
yeah, so the four-cylinder one was blue, and the V8 one was red. And
I took a ride in, which one was it, the red one?
the red one, yeah.
Ron's mom lived on Marconi Avenue, right by Watt Avenue, by the Jack in the Box, and where the phone company used to be. And we backed out of his mom's driveway very carefully because what was the compression on that thing? Do you recall?
No, it was like 11 or 12. Yeah, it was high.
12 and a half to 1.
Yeah.
He backed out, and as soon as he put it into drive, my neck snapped back, and I'm telling you, we were doing 80 within 7 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of the fastest cars that I had ever been in at the time. And I think really when it comes down to it, that was really where my love for fast cars came from.
Well, and you had your share of neat cars in high school and beyond. What type of cars? And where did your love of cars begin, really? I mean, it's, you know, I'm sure that a ride in a fast car couldn't have been everything.
Yeah, well, my dad was a car guy.
Okay.
back in the day, he had always had V8 cars, but the car that was the most memorable for me with him was he had a '72 Camaro.
Oh yeah.
And it was really funny because it was a beautiful car. It was like a burnt orange color.
I'm familiar with that color.
And it looked really cool, except it had a luggage rack on the trunk.
Wow, that's classy right there. Well,
So
there wasn't much of a trunk, so
no,
yeah,
there wasn't.
no.
There wasn't.
Yeah, gotta have a luggage rack.
Let's see. My first car was a '64 Ford Falcon, 6-cylinder,
Wow,
station wagon.
nice. That'll get the women right there.
They don't make them like that anymore.
Thank God.
Thank God. My second car was a truck. It was a '54 Ford pickup. And the unique thing about that was there was a 394 Oldsmobile motor in a Ford truck. It had a 4-speed, what they call a jetaway transmission. And you couldn't even get the traction to the rear tires in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and believe me, I tried it all. I tried cement bags. I tried everything. There was just too much horsepower for the wheels. But I guess my favorite car of all time was the '68 Firebird that I had. It was root beer brown.
Remember that?
And my mom used to say, God bless her, she used to say, if that thing had wings.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that, and this is just between you and I, Ron. Nobody else.
All right,
It's just between the three of us here, okay? One time, Dave and I took that car out to Highway 50 way before Folsom and Granite Bay. They were there obviously, but there wasn't the communities there that there are now. And we took that car out to find out how fast it would go. And I remember that it had bald tires. I hadn't done.
Because if you're going to go fast, you don't want a lot of tread on your tires.
Safety,
to slow you down.
safety.
No, that just slows you down.
Long story short, we got that thing up to 147 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
The speedometer went to 160. And when it got to 147, I was hoping it was going to get to 50, and it started doing this.
Oh, yeah.
It started bouncing like this.
Yep.
Every light in the car came on. The battery, the water, everything came on in the car. And as we were driving, all I could do was laugh. I was so scared.
Yep.
All I could do was laugh. But, I want to go fast. I like to go fast.
Yep. So now they had a great auto shop program at El Camino. Were you part of that?
Yeah, Kurt Strassner. Wasn't that, I think, who?
Our teacher was Gene Tolbert.
Oh, I remember him too, yeah. I think our teacher was just a little bit younger. He had a Cobra.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so a lot of the times when we were doing assignments and stuff at the auto shop at El Camino, we would do some of the service on his car as well as ours. So it was a great learning experience, and I think a lot of the stuff I know about cars now, I learned from that auto shop class.
You know what? That really was. In fact, from auto shop, I actually got a job working as a mechanic. So it really, it was a pretty useful, and I don't know of any high schools now that offer auto shop classes anymore. It's really a shame.
Well, yeah, it is. And where are kids today going to learn that information? They're just not. And,
there are technical schools out there that, that do the same thing, but boy, in high school, I don't know if my son could even change a tire on his car, or change his oil. There's a lot of things, useful information that, that you learn in there, how an engine actually works, and put one together. And it was very useful.
And how long ago was that when we were taking auto shop? Let me put it to you this way. I changed the points and condenser on Moses's car. It was .035.
Yeah. So, what other types of jobs have you held over the years?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. My first job was working at the Bubble Machine Car Wash.
Oh, love that place.
And it was the one on Howe and Marconi.
Yep.
And we used to pump gas all day long, and then when a person would fill up, you'd get a free car wash, and you'd have them drive around to the tunnel, soap their car down, and then send them through. Great job. So much fun.
Now, my buddy Greg worked at the bubble machine at El Camino and Mission.
Oh, I forgot there was even one there.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I never paid for a car wash back in the day.
Yeah, no, my car was always spotless.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. And to this day, I will not take a car through a car wash. I don't
way.
do it.
No. And my wife will.
Yeah.
But no, everything has to be hand washed now.
So I worked at the bubble machine car wash. I had a job one summer hauling cement bags for pools.
Oh, wow.
And they would load up 2 or 3 pallets worth of cement on the back of a flatbed truck. And then we'd have an empty pallet, and then we'd start offloading it bag by bag by bag. And they were 80-pound bags, as I remember.
Yeah.
And it was in summertime, too, right in the middle of the Sacramento summer.
Oh.
So it was hot.
Well, if you have to unload cement, it should be in the summer, I believe. Yeah, you wouldn't want to do it when it's spring or fall.
Years later, your story wouldn't be as good.
No, it would not.
I drove a van delivering flowers for Carmichael Florist for one day. My mom got me the job.
Oh, what a great job. You know what, though? Again, my friend Greg, he owned Conroy's Florist.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
And I would go out on Valentine's Day and deliver flowers for him. And he didn't pay me an hourly wage. I just lived off tips.
Yeah.
I would make maybe $120 over the course of a day in tips.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that was good. That was pretty good money. So I think there was a lost opportunity there.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
No.
I don't know. I've had some other crazy jobs. You know that guitar that I have, the Ovation.
Right.
One summer, I worked down in Turlock with a buddy of mine named Kerry, and we ran the shaking and catching machine in big groves of trees, and we shook prunes. I know.
Are there actual prunes? I thought prunes was
Plums,
a dried fruit.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were prunes. The machine would go down the row of trees, and I'll do this with my microphone here, and I drove the shaker. So I would drive the machine down like this to the tree. I would extend out the forks like this, clamp it around the tree, and then push this other button that would shake the tree like this. And all of the prunes, plums, whatever, would fall, and my buddy used the catching machine. Again, it was the summertime, and it was so hot down there in Turlock that we couldn't work during the daytime.
Oh,
So we would sleep all day and work all through the night. Prunes in our hair, prunes everywhere. I do not like prunes. I do not like them, Dr. Seuss. And I worked that whole summer to buy that guitar.
Well, I think it was worth it. That was a worthwhile summer then.
And you know, I learned a valuable lesson with that guitar. I don't know if I ever told you this, but one year I was betting on football games, on NFL football games. And I got down over $500.
Ouch.
And Sunday night, when the last game was played, I was like $500 down with the Monday night football game to go, and that was it. And I didn't have the money. I had no choice but to bet that money to try to win it back. And if I were going to lose it, I was going to have to sell that guitar.
Bye-bye, Ovation. Yeah.
I won. And to this day, I don't gamble. I don't know if you'll know that about me, but I rarely even buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
When we have an office pool.
You know what? I think it takes an experience like that to realize you don't want your prized possession to rest on the foot of a kicker.
Yeah. Oh, and it came down to the last 3 minutes, I think, in that game, as I recall.
Yeah.
So,
but I know you also did some. You've had some auto experience.
Yeah, that's another one of the things that Ronnie and I have in common, is we worked in the automotive parts business. I guess my first full-time real job was that I worked at Kragen Auto Parts.
I remember that.
And you worked at Savings Center, the
Yes, I
now
did.
defunct.
Yes.
You were at the one on Arden Way by
Started at Arden and Howe, and then they opened one at Watt and
Whitney.
Whitney.
That's right. I remember that. That sign is still up on that building.
Still there. He still owns the property. His name is Rich Vida. But now he makes his money by leasing out the parking lot. They're doing a lot of repairs. And so there's almost always construction vehicles parked there and pipes and everything else. But yeah, I think he's getting ready to sell it. He's getting up there in age, and it'll never be a store of any kind again. It's just falling apart. But
Yeah. From that job, I got promoted and got promoted and got promoted and made it to manager. And I was managing the Kragen in West Sacramento when one day my sister called me up, and she was living with our parents at the time, and I was married. And she called me and she said, "I got you a job." I go, I really don't need a job. I have a job. She goes, no, you got to meet this guy. His name is Chris Collins, and he runs this show called the FM 102 Morning Zoo. And I told him, she says, that you do a really good Rodney Dangerfield impersonation.
oh, the best.
So he says he wants to meet you. Now, the thing to understand is this. My sister still is, a very attractive young lady. And I know, because my sister told me that Chris was trying to put the moves on her. And so one day, I guess she was out at the fair and she ran into him doing a broadcast. And he said, "Let me have your number and I'll call your brother." And she goes, "Well, my brother's married. I don't live with my brother." And he goes, "Well, let me have your phone number." She goes, "No, I'll give you his phone number."
So she's smart also.
Yeah. So we hooked up, and I think it was around Labor Day. And I'll never forget this as long as I live, Ron. Chris said to me, "Are you working on Labor Day?" And I said, "No, I think I'm off." He goes, "Why don't you come down and sit in with the Morning Zoo?"
Wow.
And I said, "Well, sounds like fun to me." I'd never even heard the program before.
Oh, boy.
So that day comes. I drive from my house in Citrus Heights all the way to Woodland, where the station was. Go in the door, climb the stairs. I get up to the top, and there's like 3 guys at the top of the stairs in suits. And they look at me, and I look at them, and they said, "You must be that guy that does Rodney Dangerfield." And I go, "Yeah." "Oh, well, do Rodney Dangerfield right now." You know, here I'm like a little nervous
Right
as
on
it
the
is.
spot, yeah.
So I bust out a little Rodney Dangerfield. They laughed like crazy. The next thing I know, I'm in this tiny control room with people I've never even met before. And Chris Collins, who's the host of the show, says, "Hey, you'll never believe who dropped by here today. Rodney Dangerfield, how you doing?" That was it.
Wow.
I have these big headphones on like this big microphone in front of me, and I just started rolling with the Rodney Dangerfield jokes, and I guess I was having a good day. And lo and behold, they hired me.
I remember. Yep.
I left Kragen to go into radio, which to this day no one can really fully understand. And the rest, as they say, is kind of history.
Now, there was a time in between there, maybe like a transition time, because you did a lot of stuff call-in. Were you still working at Kragen at that time?
Yeah, I'd come in the morning at Kragen, I'd get the store opened, and then I would call for usually like a 7:30 in the morning Rodney Dangerfield joke.
Right.
I did a lot of characters on that show. I learned so much, trial by fire. We were a group of about 6 people in this Morning Zoo, and the amount of airtime that you got was based primarily on how good your material was.
Right.
So we were all fighting for airtime, and I started, trying to do other characters. Like I did Andy Rooney, Ray Charles, Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
Howard Cosell. I can't remember all of them, but they are. Oh, one of my favorites was, remember Chuck Swift
Of
from
course.
Swift Dodge?
Yes.
I used to do Chuck Thrift. And it was a beloved character, and they were never thrilled with the character Chuck Swift, but it went on for years.
Well, that's unbelievably interesting, and funny how something like that could lead into a pretty, and boy, radio worked out pretty good for you for quite a while.
Yeah, it did. And that brings me to kind of a tough part of the radio business, because the old timers, such as myself and Chris Collins and many of the people that I've worked with over the years, I can't name them all, but you can't really make a living at it anymore.
Yeah.
The reason for that is, like many other industries, not just radio, but companies are hiring younger people because they can pay them less money.
Right.
And I don't know for a fact the going rate, but I would say that most of the radio people that you hear on the air, not only are they primarily pre-recorded, but they probably are paid about $12 an hour. And I'll give you an example, because I know we're short on time here. I'll give you a couple of examples of the state of radio today. Now, this does not apply to all radio stations, but I will say to many of the stations that appeal to a younger demographic, here's what I hear on the radio. I'm driving home from one day, from work, and I'm listening to this new station that's on the air. I won't mention the format, country. And I hear the disc jockey come on the radio. And it's funny, because I listen to radio differently than most people do. Usually when the DJ comes on, you're changing the channel, looking for the next song.
Right.
For me, I want to hear what that guy has to say. So, guy comes on, he says, yeah, we're giving away this fabulous trip to Las Vegas to see so-and-so in concert. And here's your chance to win. If you'd like to win, just text the word hotel to 55333. That's hotel, HOTLE.
Whoops. That's not going to work.
Same station, couple months later, the girl is on the air in the midday, and I guess the station had moved locations to another building. And she comes on and she says, there's some good things and some bad things about this move. The bad thing, I have to climb 4 flights of stairs to get up to the studio. But the good thing is, I can see the Saharas from here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have been a pretty clear day.
Yeah, very clear. And only 3 stories or 4 stories she had to climb. So, as you can see, quality is not A1 concern anymore.
No.
And it's a shame, because I don't think that radio can ever be what it once was. But I will tell you that still doing radio after 32 or 33 years, I can tell you that the secret to doing great radio is very simply do radio that people remember. Do radio that people will remember. Maybe it's what you said, or how you made them feel, or how you described a song. It's all about making memories and making them last. And that is the secret. And since it's really hard to get a job doing that nowadays, that's why I've turned to doing this.
Yep.
This allows me to team up with my best buddy and bring you hopefully an entertaining segment a couple of times a month, where you get to know us, a little bit about us. I've been married for 25 years. You've been married for?
Coming up on 32.
So that's almost 60 years of marriage experience. And we will be sharing some of those experiences with you as it pertains to our relationships and the differences between men and women on this and every edition of Men Are So Smart. He's Ron.
He's Lou.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Goodbye.